like to move on to another issue, and we've, again, an issue raised numerous times by our patch readers, and ask each of you about it, and that is in the area of illegal immigration and what the state should be doing about it. I realize this is predominantly a federal issue, but because of the lack of federal enforcement, some of this falls into the state and local jurisdiction as well. And so we'll start with Mr. Mr. Giarrusso. What are your thoughts on what the state can do, at least as a role in the General Assembly, on issues? Should E-Verify come back? Should there be in-state tuition for the children of illegal or undocumented immigrants? What are your thoughts on the state's role, and what would you do if elected to the General Assembly?
Well, the problem with illegal immigration is it's a strain on everybody. We're all paying, because of the extra people in schools and hospitals and things like that. But first and foremost, I would say E-Verify is a very good start, just to make sure. Because the problem is it's really a sensitive topic. You don't want to be heartless by taking someone that was here when they were 3 years old and now you're going to ship them to wherever they came from. But ultimately, they started out as criminals. I can speak to that because I'm an immigrant myself. I was born in Italy and I came here when I was 4 years old. And my grandparents came in 1955, and it took 11 years before my parents was to get the right paperwork. They had to be sponsored. We didn't get here until 1966. So, it's really delicate, but I think we should at least do E-Verify.
Okay, Dr. Schwager, your thoughts on the state's role in immigration?
The state has an important role in managing immigration issues. My position would be to continue with the current close collaboration between the Rhode Island Attorney General and the U.S. Attorney and Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which has successfully been involved in targeted enforcement. Those three bodies have worked together, and you've probably read over the last several years where there have been raids and there have been successful disruption of companies that have been using undocumented workers. And the issue is to use the existing tools that we have in a targeted fashion. My concern is that we not stigmatize a group of people or engage in racial profiling, and that we make sure that the existing infrastructure is used properly and with all the tools available to it.
Thank you. Mr. McDonough, your thoughts?
Well, the topic actually speaks to both sides. It speaks to the illegal immigrant in terms of having protections for them when they're here in terms of two horrific situations, one involving a Warwick landscaping company where an illegal immigrant employee was injured, and then once that injury occurred, the business owner disavowed and disowned that individual. And a similar situation up in Lincoln, Rhode Island at a company called Packaging Graphics, where a Guatemalan illegal, it was hired through a temporary agency, so the company itself was unaware of it, but it came through a temp agency, and he was horrifically injured. And the importance here is that our laws regarding workmen's compensation and those sort of things have to extend to individuals who are working in private enterprise illegally when the employers either know or don't know about it to protect it. I believe that's a moral obligation that we have. But on the same hand, along with what Mark was talking about, I believe those illegals who are here with illicit activities of drug trafficking, drug trade, that's where our focus and attention should be. Not to people who have come here for reasons of economic need and are struggling. And that's why, for example, on a national scale, I support the DREAM Act. Here are citizens, children who have come to this country through no knowledge of their own. It was their parents that brought them here illegally. They sometimes serve in our military, they come back, and now we're talking about possibly asking them to leave. I think that's ludicrous. And there are 12 million illegal people in this country, illegal aliens allegedly, and there's no way that we can pack them back to their country of origin, so I think we need to take a different approach. And what Mark referenced, I believe, is the right strategy. So you target those that are illicit, that are criminals, you go after that activity, and then the others, the ones who are here for economic reasons, et cetera, you work to try to get them on the correct path to citizenship legally.
Okay, thank you. I want to go to a topic that hasn't really been a campaign issue, but all of a sudden it popped up in the news in the last week, and it's something the General Assembly is very likely going to have to deal with in this session. We had a convicted child killer, Michael Woodmansey, who was trying to obtain an absentee ballot and vote in the upcoming election, and by state law he has every right to do so, although now he has decided not to. But this raised the issue of whether convicted felons, particularly convicted murderers, should have the right to vote or have those rights rescinded based upon conviction. So this is an issue that could be coming up for consideration for all felons or all murderers this time in the General Assembly. So we'll start with Mr. Giarrusso this time. Would you favor changing the law, and where would you draw the line in terms of allowing or not allowing convicted felons to vote?
Well, I think voting is really a privilege. It's not a right. I mean, you can lose it, so therefore it's not a right. So once you're, for what he did, convicted felon, a murderer, absolutely not. I don't, if we feel that he's been, rehabilitated, that doesn't matter. But in my opinion, he should never be able to vote again.
Dr. Schwager.
Well, Mark, I think you may have done something very difficult. You may have left me speechless because it's just very complicated. I think the idea of allowing some felons to vote again had something to do with the drug war and consequences of the drug war, and many people, low-level people involved in drug activity being tagged with felonies under very harsh laws, and that these people were then taken out of the voting mainstream even after many years after their felony conviction, and they had returned to productive lives, and they were still tagged with these felonies. So the idea was to allow felony convictions not to stand in the way of voting. Obviously, there's an order of magnitude between the type of case that you talk about and these other cases that I was mentioning. How you distinguish and how you draw the line, I think would really be a complicated process that I have not the expertise to comment on further.
Mr. McDonough?
This answer, Chuck Newton, I want you to listen carefully. This is when an independent is truly an independent. Because I believe not in 3 strikes you're out, but 1 strike you're out when it comes to capital crimes of murder, rape, child molestation. And that 1 strike you're out means you're locked away for life. And so there's no real debate then about whether you're going to be out at some point to get the right to vote again, because you've lost it, you're still in prison. So that settles that issue, I think.
Okay, very interesting. 3 very distinctly different responses. You have more to say, Mr. Giarrusso.
It has nothing to do with why we're here, but I'm just wondering where the Chuck Newton reference came from.
Okay.
I stand corrected.
Must be from the comment section. I get a lot of those in my column on the page.